Thanks for joining us. Canadians need to leave now. That is the message from Global Affairs to Canadians in Lebanon. That comes as there's been a major escalation in the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. The militant group says its longtime leader, Hassan Nasrallah, has been killed in an Israeli attack in Beirut. It is the biggest blow to Hezbollah yet after days of strikes on the group's commanders and weapons capability. That sudden escalation has left foreign nationals scrambling to leave, Canadians among them. Jamie Strachan has that part of the story.
With news that Israel has killed Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, the violence in the region is only expected to escalate. So too is the desperation of Canadians stuck in Lebanon trying to get out.
In terms of the people that are living there now, they are scared.
For Canadians with family in Lebanon, anxiety is at an all-time high.
A war like this, where it starts little by little and then all of a sudden you're in the middle of it, you could be affected by just going to a restaurant and be sitting beside somebody who has a pager, for example, or a walkie-talkie.
Things on the ground are shifting and changing by the moment. The federal government has started booking blocks on commercial flights. Even before the assassination, the message from the Canadian government was clear.
What we're doing right now is, first and foremost, we're saying to Canadians in Lebanon, please leave now. I can't be more direct than this. And also, if you're Canadian, don't go.
Global Affairs Canada told CBC the seats have been booked because flights out of Lebanon are becoming scarce. Canadians wishing to leave need to register on the Global Affairs Canada website and will be responsible for paying for their own flights. Canada is relying on other countries as well.
Also, we're working with key governments, the Australians, the Americans, and also the French governments, to make sure that also we adapt our evacuation plans together.
Experts say the sense of urgency is even greater in the wake of this assassination.
I think the big picture here is not really about what Hezbollah will do in terms of retaliation. What's happening now, for your own viewers, this is all-out war. This is not about a few days or a few weeks or a few months.
Difficult days ahead for those on the ground and for families here in Canada, waiting for what might happen next. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
Back in the GTA, a powerful show of unity against gun violence. People coming together today in Toronto pushing for more than just empty promises. Brittany Billette was there among the crowd.
The message here today was enough is enough. Everyone I spoke to, from community workers to people who have lost their loved ones to gun violence, said something needs to be done.
I'm here to say that if you think it can't be you, it can. It can very well be you standing in my footsteps.
Evelyn Fox's son, Kissinger Gunn, was killed by a stray bullet outside a Toronto nightclub in 2016. He was 26 years old.
It's important for me to be here not only for my son, but for every child that has been taken by this issue.
She joined more than 100 people at Nathan Phillips Square to remember all victims and survivors of gun violence in the city. Families and community workers marched together to Queen's Park, calling for change. According to Toronto police, there have been at least 338 gun-related incidents this year, the highest since 2020. So far this year, 35 people have died in a shooting. That's more than all of 2023.
And so when we think of gun violence, there's a lot of inequities that are at the root.
This event happens annually, but this year was particularly somber because it was missing community leader Louis March, an anti-gun violence advocate who died in July after a brief illness. He was the founder of the Zero Gun Violence movement and worked tirelessly to support youth in Toronto and the GTA.
Louis is a very special person, and his vision was to bring people together and make sure that everyone has a seat at the table and really address the inequities.
McKean says one of the challenges he and others face is that more money is needed to fund prevention programs. Toronto police say most shootings are linked to gang violence, targeted and isolated, and that's why they have programs aimed at addressing the root causes with community organizations.
Thanks, Brittany. That's Brittany Billette reporting for us. Turning to a disturbing story now in Peel Region, police say they've charged a 32-year-old man for 2 unprovoked assaults against elderly men in a Mississauga park. The first happened on September 19th near Applewood Hills Trail and Bloor. Police say the accused approached a 73-year-old man from behind and struck him with a weapon. Officers would not elaborate today on what kind of weapon. Then a week later, he did the same to a 77-year-old man. Both victims were taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police could not elaborate on their condition. The accused was arrested yesterday. He's been charged with aggravated assault, disobeying a court order, and assault with a weapon. Big news this week from the province on tackling congestion. The Premier wants to dig a tunnel under the 401 across the GTA.
We're doing a feasibility study, so the feasibility study will come in and we'll be transparent. But I'll tell you one thing, we're getting this tunnel built.
The study will look at the potential for a tunnel running from Brampton or Mississauga in the west to Scarborough or Markham in the east, connecting to major roads along the way. The province says the tunnel would include public transit and wouldn't have any tolls.
It doesn't surprise me that a government that's as focused on suburban commuters as this government is would put forward proposals of this nature. Now, when you reflect on it, the challenge is that there's no evidence that this will work. It likely is constructible, it will be hugely expensive, and it will not solve our congestion problems. In fact, it will make them worse.
Reaction continuing this weekend, questioned by those who study transit and infrastructure and slammed by the opposition. Some are saying the province would be better off making better use of the express toll route, Highway 407. Joining me now is Peter Myzik. He's with Transport Action Ontario. That's a citizen transportation advocacy group. Thanks for being here, Peter.
Thank you, Shannon.
So let's start with your reaction. When you heard the news from earlier this week about potentially digging a tunnel, what did you think?
Well, I've been struggling to find the right adjective. I think gobsmacked comes close. I just heard a bit of Maddie Simioticki's points, and the thing would be incredibly expensive, incredibly disruptive, and won't even work due to the phenomenon of induced demand where the freeways just fill up again. So it's bad on all counts. It's been greatly proven over the probably past 20 or 30 years that constructing new highway lanes or new highways in busy urban areas does not reduce gridlock. It does add more transportation capacity, but the gridlock stays as bad as it is. This is called induced demand. Drivers start to, as they perceive they have a less congested road, they fill it up by traveling at busy hours or taking longer trips or not chaining trips together. All of this falls into induced demand. That's definitely going to happen here in this tunnel, whether you add a lane somewhere else, like a Highway 413, or whether you add a tunnel, you'll get the phenomenon of induced demand, which will just refill the roads. The right answer is something completely different.
Right. And we're going to talk about what you might think the right answer is. Some of, people are talking this weekend about the 407 and floating that idea. I know it's not a new one, but it is something your group has looked at as well.
Yes, we did look at it extensively as part of the Highway 413 debate. We feel moving trucks to the 407 by giving them a discount or even a complete freebie makes a lot of sense. We do need to move trucks in our economy. Trucks can't go on goods can't go on transit. So moving trucks to the 407 and giving them a discount is substantially cheaper than building Highway 413, let alone substantially cheaper from building the 401 tunnel. We estimate the cost to be about $260 million a year to subsidize trucks on the 407, which is a much lower number than what you'd get by constructing a highway.
We're almost out of time, but I know the thing that you talk about the most is public transit and liking to see a focus on that.
Yes, the best way to move people is public transit. Can move much more cost effectively, gets them to destinations where they want, and is not subject to the same problems of induced demand like a highway is. I did want to try to squeeze one more point in if we have the time, and that is Mr. Ford has stated this tunnel will not be tolled, which means the taxpayers all across the province, from Thunder Bay to Cornwall to Sarnia, will be paying for this thing. It makes no sense to do that. When they did a similar project in Australia, at least they had the smart idea of tolling the road so users paid for it.
Yeah. It's a point I know people across the province are talking about. We'll have to leave it there for now. We'll be watching for this study. I know you will be too. Thanks so much, Peter.
Thank you, Shannon.
He's with Transport Action Ontario. Officials now surveying the damage in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. Homes washing away and businesses reduced to rubble. The storm has claimed dozens of lives in at least 5 states, including 3 firefighters, a woman, and her 1-month-old twins. Helene is the most powerful storm on record to hit Florida's northern Big Bend region, and one of the most powerful ever to hit the U.S. There is no rest, though, for those impacted, with the official end of hurricane season not until November 30th. Sophia joining us now for our first look at the forecast. Those videos are really devastating to watch. I know you've been tracking this one really closely.
Yeah, this was a monster storm, and unfortunately, I have my eyes on that Atlantic warm sea surface basin, as there could be more development in the next 7 days, more storms that could turn into hurricanes potentially with similar tracks. I've also been looking back at past big-name storms like Hurricane Idalia, Ian, and even Michael that took an eerily similar track to Hurricane Helene. Like Michael went over that historic Big Bend area in Florida. It was 11:10 p.m. on Thursday. Landfall in this area, mostly around the Everglades. And then Helene brought record-breaking storm surge, anywhere from 6 to 10 feet around the Florida shorelines, trudging northwards around the Appalachian Mountains, where inundating many millions of communities with record-breaking rainfall. Some of these totals are astronomical. 700 millimeters of rainfall in some. And you picture this wide berth of a storm raining down on the Appalachian Mountains, and all of that rain downsloping and pooling in all of these valley communities, which is why so many regions have been completely cut off to emergency services, food, and clean water. The sheer size of Helene was really impactful as well, Shannon. 800 kilometers in diameter. So not only were there effects around the eye with those hurricane force winds, but also the peripheral area of this storm was hit, which is why upwards of 3 million Americans are without power. We're actually seeing some of the effects of Helene as well. Look outside. The cloud showers and drizzle that you see are the northern edge of the remnant moisture of Helene. They will stick around with us into the overnight period, and by Sunday, some of those showers will just be along the Erie shorelines. You'll actually mix down and have sunshine anywhere. Cottage country in north, we continue to stay in above seasonal territory, especially into the north that has no business being in the mid-20s this time of year. I'll tell you about in the long range when we finally cool down for the season. Shannon.
A beloved Toronto restaurant has been serving traditional Pakistani dishes for decades, but a devastating fire last year forced them to close. Now Lahore Tikka House is back in business. Nama Weingarten takes us there.
After more than a year, sizzles, chatter, and a comforting smell fills the Lahore Tikka House again. This moment couldn't come soon enough for Adam Siani, who took over the family business.
Having it closed was hard on the heart, and having it back open with people here and people excited and smiles, you can't beat it. Best feeling in the world.
The restaurant was forced to close because of a kitchen fire that caused major water damage last summer. Adam says they never imagined it would take this long to get it running again.
Oh, no, okay, we'll be back in 3 months, we'll be back in 6 months, whatever it is. As you get into contracting and project management, you realize how long things actually take.
It's fair to say Friday's reopening was highly anticipated by the community. They sold so much, a lot of their food ran out.
They probably just were over-ordering because after a year and a half of not being able to eat the food, they probably wanted more than what they usually get.
The food truck they used to keep the business going throughout the last year is parked out back. Customers and employees alike are happy to return to the same old place again.
As soon as I saw the post last night saying that, yeah, we're open again, I knew that we were going to be coming back.
I'm excited, and I am actually I'm reaching out to every person, appreciating, thanking them for being here and supporting throughout the year.
The restaurant serves authentic Pakistani cuisine. It all started when Adam's father founded it in 1996. His mother took over the business when he passed away a decade ago. And when it came to his future career, Adam originally had Wall Street on his mind. Last year's fire changed everything.
Having the fire kind of allowed me to come back to Toronto, start with the food truck, now start with the business, and then hopefully continue on to bigger and better things. that's what I want to do. That's my legacy. I can't give up on my family's legacy.
Nama Weingarten, CBC News, Toronto.
Some sports leagues in the GTA and right across Ontario are trying something new when it comes to cracking down on abuse and harassment against referees. Lane Harrison explains how.
Anyone who's been involved in minor hockey knows emotions run high, and some leagues are trying to bring them down this year. Especially when it comes to the officials who keep the game moving, who often receive unsolicited negative feedback.
It's something that can be difficult, and a lot of people struggle with it.
18-year-old Harry Smith is a ref with the Greater Toronto Hockey League. Now a seasoned official, he still has early memories of being yelled at on the job.
I was a bit nervous, but after the game when I went home and I thought, you know what, like, I'm a 15-year-old guy and it's a grown man or a grown woman yelling at me right now, and I'm not in the wrong. I'm just trying to do my job, right? And if they have a problem with that and they get personal, that's on them, that's not on me.
But he says every ref doesn't handle it so well.
And when there's a lot of pressure being put on them, when they're just trying to learn, trying to figure out how to do things, it's really difficult. So people tend to give it up.
That's something both the GTHL and Ontario Minor Hockey Association are trying to stop this season. In the OMHA, teenage officials will wear green armbands, while first-year officials wear them in the GTHL.
The green armband is a reminder to parents that, kids and officials are just getting started in officiating, especially at the younger levels, and it's a reminder to them that the person they may be getting emotional with is only a child or a young youth themselves.
The GTHL piloted the idea in house leagues last winter and is expanding the program this fall. The OMHA is bringing in the armbands for the first time this year.
We've certainly had situations over the last couple of years where team officials have actually come on the ice and tried to physically get at the officials, not so much to want to harm them, but to make sure they understand that they're screaming their frustration at those team officials, at those on-ice officials.
When it comes to what's driving the bad behavior, one expert says it's a mix of factors, including the way some now approach the game.
We do see sort of a trend towards earlier and earlier specialization in sport, which I think that plus kind of this nonsense of like a professionalization of youth sport, that there's this sense that there's more investment from families, more time, more money. And I think that can lead to like a heightened sense of importance, that this is really, really important.
Looking ahead to this season, Smith thinks the expansion of the GTHL armband program will be a positive for the league.
Everyone does it. We speak before we think, and that happens. But I think the real initiative with the green armband is, okay, now there's something here telling me and reminding me that it's a human, that it's someone that's trying to learn something new.
Lane Harrison, CBC News, Toronto.
Tavon, now where thousands of people gathered today for the world's largest road hockey fundraiser.
This event is so important for raising awareness of cancer, which unfortunately is Canada's leading cause of death. 2 in 5 Canadians will be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime, but it's really important from the perspective of hope.
The event is now in its 13th year and has raised $33 million for life-saving cancer research at the Princess Margaret Cancer Centre. Community members getting together at Dufferin Grove Park for a powwow just ahead of Truth and Reconciliation Day.
It's a time for Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people to come together, to be aware of what historically has happened and to ensure that those things do not happen again, and to bring together communities and all cultures to be able to unify but recognize what has happened.
Native Child and Family Services hosts the powwow every year, this being the 27th. They say some of the proceeds will go towards next year's event, as well as support the organization's education and awareness efforts. Just a beautiful day to take in all the festivals happening. You know, fall is here, but on days like this, it still feels so gorgeous and warm.
And you're going to love this week ahead. Great weather, especially into the end of this week and into this coming weekend for all the apple picking and pumpkin patch. corn maze fun that you may have. Really, anywhere cottage country and south is looking pretty clear. We are still seeing a little bit of that remnant moisture from that southerly system. Anywhere kind of around the Erie shorelines into tomorrow morning, but that sunshine will really mix in for the GTA and north throughout much of tomorrow. We're still talking about really nice warm temperatures, really sunny for those of you in parts of northern Ontario in the double digits for your Sunday morning. We still see some of that rain around the Windsor area into Sunday morning, continuing Sunday afternoon while the rest of us are clearing out quite nicely. Look at the mid-20s for Parry Sound, Sault Ste. Marie, and Sudbury. Continues in for Monday. Those are temperatures anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees above seasonal. In fact, we start off our work week with really nice conditions and some bluebird skies right across the board. The conditions for Monday overnight, especially for parts of northern Ontario, are where your daytime high should normally be. In fact, we're coming off a really hot month. To have dark reds like this indicate a temperature anomaly of anywhere from 5 to 8 degrees. It's unusual to have that for a full week, let alone a full month around the areas in parts of northern Ontario and along the Hudson's Bay shorelines where it's been downright tropical. Look at the change, though. Come Tuesday, back down to seasonal, rain in place. In fact, everybody really across the province will see some rain. The timing will be interesting, though. You're back down to seasonal in the north after that cold front from the prairies comes in on Tuesday. It's rain during the day on Tuesday for the north, and for everybody in the south, it's overnight rain Tuesday into Wednesday. So we'll be the benefactor of some seasonal temperatures, but really lovely sunny weather and a calm, stable atmosphere to boot right into next weekend, Shannon.
We'll take it for all the things you said. Apple
All the
picking.
things.
We got to make the list now for all the fall
All right.
activities.
I'm in, live on location next weekend.
Okay, we'll take it. Thanks, Sophia. That's our show for you tonight. Thanks for watching and being here with us. Before we go, we want to take you to Nathan Phillips Square, where all weekend the Indigenous Legacy Gathering is taking place just ahead of Truth and Reconciliation Day happening on Monday. We hope you have a great night. We'll see you again tomorrow.